What's going on, Dolph fans? It's your boy Dillon, and I got a couple things I want to talk about today real quick. The primary thing is about the news regarding Chan Gailey, which we will get to in just a moment. The first thing I want to mention, though, is Chandler Cox. Now, he was released by the Dolphins. This was like a week or so ago at this point. I had missed it. And just caught it the other day, and wanted to mention something about it and thought this was a good time because the Dolphins have now cut 3 draft picks from their first 2 draft classes. Already, the Dolphins and this organization have cut 3 draft picks. Isaiah Prince, who went to the Bengals, Curtis Weaver, who went to the Browns, who ended up going to the Browns, and so one from last season, or one from their first draft, rather, and then, well, actually, I guess 2 from their first draft, because Chandler Cox was from their first draft as well, and then, so Isaiah Prince and Chandler Cox from their first draft, and then Curtis Weaver from, this most recent draft. So, I mean, I've been saying for quite some time now that their evaluation process is not very good, and their list of failed evaluations when it comes to players is a mile long compared to the list of players that you can look at and reasonably say are going to be staples of this team for years to come, based off of their evaluations of them, right? And their first draft class in their first year didn't have, a very good look coming out of their first year. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that they tanked the season, etc. And on its face, you would say that the Dolphins' second draft class probably had a pretty good first year, considering the Dolphins went 10-6, etc. But I'm honestly not all that impressed, and they've already cut one of the guys now from that draft class. So, it's... We'll see how things go, moving forward, but I'm just not really convinced that they know what the fuck they're doing and know how to build a team properly. So, but look, again, 3 players from their first 2 draft classes already have been cut. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, but moving on, though, because the one thing that I did want to talk about primarily is Chan Gailey. So there were reports recently that Chan Gailey had been fired. This was coming from, I think ESPN had reported it or whatever, Adam Schefter or something like that had reported it. It got walked back. It had gotten walked back. But there are reports today that Chan Gailey has resigned after just 1 season. So let's go through this report, and then I want to say a couple things. Dolphins' Chan Gailey resigns after just 1 season as offensive coordinator. Gailey returned to the NFL after a 3-year hiatus in 2020 to serve as Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator. After just 1 season under Flores, the longtime assistant could be headed back to retirement. The Dolphins announced Wednesday that Gailey has resigned as offensive coordinator after just 1 season in the position, marking the 2nd straight year Miami will be tasked with replacing its head of offensive staff. The 68-year-old Gailey joined the Dolphins with nearly a decade of offensive coordinator experience, including a previous stint with Miami in 2000 and 2001. He also has a history with backup quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, spending 5 years alongside the veteran single caller in Buffalo and New York, but Miami's offense finished just 22nd in the NFL in 2020, a marginal improvement from a 2019 campaign that saw the team finish 5-11. More importantly, rookie quarterback Tua Tagovailoa never quite seemed to blossom as intended under Gailey's guidance, twice being benched for Fitzpatrick in the second half of the season. Gailey's departure comes a year after Flores dismissed Chad O'Shea, now the Cleveland Browns passing game coordinator, for the same duties after just 1 season. Whomever is targeted to replace Gailey will likely have the opportunity to put their imprint on Tagovailoa, who went 6-3 in 9 starts after entering the NFL as the 5th overall draft pick of 2020. So, look, we'll see. Obviously, the offense didn't do very well this season. But look, I'm not one of those people that thinks people should just be fired after, such a short period of time or whatever, right? Like, and now in this case, it seems that he has resigned, but like, I think that there needs to be some continuity and some time for people, like, right? So this is not going to be good for Tua. It's just not, because it's going to be more change when the kid needs stability, right? He didn't even, part of the reason why he performed so terribly this season, didn't perform all that well. And look, again, that 6-3 record as a starter and his, 11 touchdowns to like 3 or 4 interceptions, whatever it is not a clear indication and picture of how he actually did. There is a lot more that goes into it. And people who, say, let's take the last game out before he threw 3 interceptions, including a pick 6. And I told you the kid's luck was going to run out. He was super lucky. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. He lucked the fuck out. He threw like 7 or 8 interceptions previous to that were not counted as interceptions because he lucked out and that the defender just couldn't, hold on to it when he went to the ground. Or, it got called back by penalty, etc., etc. That's lucky as fuck. Because he threw the interceptions. It's not like they weren't in the belly of the fucking defender or right to him or whatever. It was a bad decision, a bad throw, and he threw an interception. He just got lucky and it didn't end up as an interception because of one of those factors, right? Anyway, and the Dolphins lucked out in a lot of ways because they didn't suffer the kind of injuries that a lot of other teams did. They constantly were playing, bad teams or injury-riddled teams or, what have you, right? They lucked out a lot this season, in a lot of ways. And so it's not indicative of who this team actually is and, where Tua is in his development, right? So having a new offensive coordinator next year is going to be a challenge for him, and it's going to make things, it's going to make the development a bit slower, right? Because clearly he didn't know the entire offense this season. Now, it depends, right? There is some chance that, let's say, Chan Gailey's offense really didn't suit Tua, and maybe the next guy is going to have one that's better, blah, blah, blah. Sure, that's a possibility. But without question, changing the system adds another hurdle, because now he's got to learn a new system under a new guy who has, different tendencies, different habits, different teaching styles, etc., right? There's a number of reasons why Ryan Fitzpatrick potentially will not be back next season, but not having, a veteran guy who has a deep understanding of the offensive play system is also, could potentially stunt his growth and his development, right? So it's just going to make it harder for sure. That was one of the problems that Ryan Tannehill had with the Dolphins, is they constantly were changing the fucking coordinators and the coaches around him and never gave him any kind of stable system to work in. So, and it'll be the 3rd straight season that the Dolphins offense as a whole is going to have a new guy. It was Chad O'Shea the first year, then it's Chan Gailey. Next year it's going to be who knows. And so, there are definitely going to be hurdles that are going to be there that wouldn't otherwise be there, right? Because if Chan Gailey stayed, at least there would be some continuity from to his first season to his second season. It wouldn't be a change in offensive coordinator, a different person with different tendencies, habits, etc., right? It wouldn't be a different offense. When he got put into the game, right, when they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick mysteriously for, seemingly no reason, because it wasn't performance issue and it wasn't injury issue, right? Neither of those things happened. He just got benched mysteriously. When that happened, I don't know exactly how much of the playbook he knew, but I saw, various reports with, anecdotal, information and testimony from people, just a handful people or whatever, that said he probably knew roughly 40% of the playbook. Well, now he's going to know 0% of it, because he doesn't even know what it's going to be until he gets a new offensive coordinator. Then he's going to have to jump in and fucking blah, 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 blah. Right? So, not to mention, I'd say that there's also a pretty significant possibility that the offense looks pretty different as well. Right? So he hasn't really even had any time to gain much chemistry with these guys on offense at this point really at all. But then, you know, because of injuries, right, especially to like the running back position, and COVID, right, affected that position primarily. But other things as well, like, you know, spending a portion of the season as the backup, not having a full off season to get reps with these guys, you know, but spending a portion of the season as a backup and, you know, thereby being the second team quarterback, then finally moving up and then getting first team reps, but then having some of your wide receivers get injured and maybe not practice, or having practices get fucked up and go digital because of COVID, right? All these different things provided hurdles in his ability to gain chemistry. Well, now that's, you know, likely going to change, right? Because I've even seen like a bunch of people are talking about, oh, you know, the Dolphins have the 3rd overall pick because the Houston Texans suck so bad this year, blah, 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 and they're probably going to get the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver. Okay, well, guess what? He's going to have to gain chemistry with that guy. And my guess is that guy likely didn't get thrown to by a left-handed quarterback, which is a pretty big deal, right? So that's going to take time. Anyway, so, you know, this is not really good news, even though, you know, you could say, oh, well, the Dolphins were only 22nd in offense and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. And I agree that they weren't very good. And I agree if you want to say that, you know, Tua didn't, you know, perform all that great and so on and so forth. I agree with those things. But I don't necessarily agree that the answer is to then change things so drastically, right? Like, tweak things, make some adjustments, and improve upon the good things that happened, because he did show flashes, right? He did show some flashes and some of that potential. Build on that and build a team around him, because that was another problem that Ryan Tannehill had here. Not only were the fucking coaches constantly changing around him and the players constantly changing around him, but yeah, fucking, I forgot what I was gonna say, right? Just so much fucking change. You know, player personnel changes, consistency, you know, whatever. Anyway, you get the point. So look, man, it's not a great thing. We'll see how it turns out. You know, we'll see who they hire, and we'll see, you know, I mean, who's to say that they're even going to have, you know, a proper offseason this upcoming year, right? I mean, they still got to make it through the playoffs, which, you know, I saw reports that the playoffs might be getting pushed back or whatever because the Cleveland Browns just had an outbreak, you know. So it's like, okay, well, we still got to make it through, you know, the rest of this season, technically, the playoffs and the Super Bowl, before we even get to the off season, and then before we even get to, you know, the draft and free agency, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a substantial possibility that they won't even have a proper offseason next year either. Yeah, anyway. And so, oh, and the thing I forgot about building a team properly around him. That was a problem Tannehill had. They never gave him a good offensive line. They, you know, I think until, you know, Gase, I mean, I know people hate when I say that, but I think Gase did a great job of building that team. I thought he was building the offensive line and giving him, you know, the skill position players he needed, etc. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is you got to do that, because it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. I don't care how good it is. I don't care if it's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson or, you know, Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. I don't care who it is. They're one person on an 11-man team, and they need those other guys, those other 10 guys, to be able to perform well. None of those quarterbacks play offensive line at the same time. They don't also play receiver. They're not throwing the ball to themselves. So while they might be spectacular or elite or the best of the best at that position, they still require a good team around them. And sure, they can mask some deficiencies, but the deficiencies can be so high and so great that one individual person cannot mask it, right? And especially for an entire team, right? So those 11 guys are just on offense. Then you have to take into account a defense, right? Because your defense, your offense could be lights out, but if your defense, you can have a quarterback like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, but if your defense can never stop anybody, then that's going to make it a million times more difficult on your offense. Anyway, whatever. So that's how it is. It's pretty big news. Ultimately, we'll have to see how it works out. I mean, look, a lot of people are excited about where the Dolphins are right now. They're like, ooh, we were 10-6 after being 5-11 last year. We made so much progress, blah, 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 blah. Again, I'm not really convinced of that. I'm actually not, even though, there were some good moments out of, like, let's say the offensive line. I'm really not all that impressed with them. I'm not impressed with this organization's ability to evaluate players. I'm not impressed with the offense. I like Tua. I like his potential. I like the kid himself, right? Like, he seems like a good kid, but I wasn't impressed with him. And I'm not personally convinced that they are on the right path. So they have a lot, and without question, they have a very, very long way to go. Again, and to wrap up, I don't think that they're a 10-6 team. Obviously, they did not end up making it to the playoffs, but if I'm keeping it real, I don't think they deserved to make it to the playoffs, because I don't believe that they are that good of a team yet. I just don't. The offense is unquestionably not a playoff caliber offense. It's just not debatable. And the defense, and some people will be like, oh, well, that's why Chan Gailey needs to go. No, the proper answer actually is to have more continuity and consistency. It's like an offensive line. If you're constantly changing things on an offensive line, odds are you're not going to get good production from it. Anyway, so, or really any position on the team, right? Constant change is not a good thing in the NFL, right? Constant drastic change, big change is not a good thing. Anyway, so I think that they have a long way to go and a lot to prove. And so we'll see how it plays out. Because I really don't believe that they are 10-6 good. The defense, look, I mean, they have one elite player, and that's Xavier Howard. He did get his 10 interceptions, which I was extremely happy to see. He got the Dolphins MVP, which of course was going to be the case because he's literally the only elite player on the team, other than, I would say, Jason Sanders is also in that mix. But everybody else, literally everybody else, you just don't even know if they're going to be on the team. Nobody, not a single fucking player, not even Tua, because despite the fact that, yes, reports did come out that they said that he was going to be their guy, and maybe that's true for 2021, but if they go out and he performs on the same level that he did and doesn't make marked improvement, then you never know. And there were guys in the past that you thought were going to be for sure things, right? Draft picks, for example, Isaiah Prince, Chandler Cox, Curtis Weaver. You thought those guys would be for sure things, at least in the short term. Nope, gone. You thought guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Laramie Tunsil would be for sure things. Nope, gone. Right? Like, and again, this organization is constantly churning bodies out, right? Like, they don't fucking have, like, almost, anyway. So, again, long way to go. We'll see how it plays out, etc., etc. But this news of Chan Gailey is only going to add to, you know, the hurdles that they will have to overcome, you know, and obstacles that they have to fucking, overcome to be able to get to where they want to be. So, all right, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And, of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.